Hi friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I am so excited to share with you Rogue Lacquer's Austentatious collection. Believe it or not, this is actually my very first time trying Rogue Lacquer. A couple of you have suggested that I try them before, especially because I have mentioned that I love flakies, and Rogue is definitely most known for their intense micro flaky bombs, where they really leave your nails looking like granite or quartz, almost like a countertop. Definitely a cool look, but not one that I was always super into. But then when I saw them put out a teaser for this collection, I knew I had to get it. It's a 6-piece collection that features 5 super shifty shimmers and then 1 silvery chrome polish. I'm sure you can already tell how I feel about this collection, so I will save more of my thoughts for the end. For now, let's just get into the swatches. Okay, so first of all, I actually did move the names to the upper left-hand corner, at least for this first portion of the video. Let me know how you like it. I know it's kind of weird and different, but just let me know. But anyway, onto the collection. This first polish is Emma, and this is described as a rosy pink base with chrome gold shimmer. And I don't know if your jaw also dropped when you saw that first swipe, but mine definitely did. I was just so blown away by the shimmer in this one. I can definitely see what they mean by having a chrome kind of shimmer because it almost has this like metallic sort of look to it. It is just super densely packed in there, but it still was so smooth and easy to work with, very full coverage, and I just stopped at 2 coats for this one. Maybe you could see a hint of nail line, but I just didn't think it was necessary to do a third. The shift in this one is gorgeous. Next up we have Persuasion, and this is a violet purple with green to gold chrome shimmer. No surprise, I pretty much had the same reaction as the last polish where my jaw immediately dropped with the first swipe alone. It is just so freaking beautiful. This is another one that I absolutely adore the color combination. The purple base might be a little hard to tell because of how prominent that shimmer is, but it is just so incredibly shifty. I really love the green to gold shift, and formula-wise, this one performed basically the same, where it was very full coverage and opaque enough for me in 2 coats. You could still see a hint of nail line, but again, I don't think it's necessary to do a third. But yeah, it is just absolutely stunning. Next, we have Sense and Sensibility, and this is described as a classic blue base with mauve pink to green chrome shifting shimmer. And not to sound like a broken record, but this one was also absolutely gorgeous. I was just so floored by the coverage of this. The shimmer is just so in your face, so full coverage. It almost felt like you're painting with like liquid metal or something, which again, I guess is like that chrome element coming into play, but I still wouldn't really call these chrome by any means. I don't know. I sort of see it, but they still just feel like really opaque shimmers, if that makes sense. Either way, it is just so stunning. I love the blue base color in this one, and especially that green shift that you see in more indirect light. It's just so vibrant, and I feel like gives it a more summery kind of look, which I really love. I honestly kind of wish the shimmer colors were reversed. Next, we have Pride and Prejudice, and this is described as a peachy base with blue chrome shimmer. I guess I can see it leaning peachy, but it definitely is like a peachy pink color. Maybe it really is that intense blue shimmer that just makes it lean a little bit lilac sort of in certain lighting, but this was easily another top favorite from this collection. It was one of the shades that I saw that I was like, okay, I need to try this. Just absolutely insanely glowy. But as you can see, because this one has such a light base color, it definitely is the most sheer. So I found that this one definitely did need 3 coats to look a little bit more similar to the others in terms of their coverage. But even still, when you're kind of looking at your nails in more indirect light, you do still see some nail line. So if that bothers you, you might want to use a blurring base coat. But either way, this one is just so insanely gorgeous. I love how intense that blue shimmer is, and it has a super gorgeous shift as well, where it's kind of like a deeper blue, maybe indigo kind of color. Next up we have Mansfield Park, and this one is described as a minty base with a lemon lime chrome shimmer, which I think is an interesting way to describe this color. I personally wouldn't call this green a mint green, it's more of like a candy apple green to me. And while the shimmer does shift to a lime green in indirect light, I feel like head on it almost has more of a silver kind of color. It doesn't really give me lemon vibes, like a strong yellow like some of the other shades have. And I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there are also these small little flecks of like a pinky kind of color, which I didn't see in the description, but it's definitely there. But either way, color description aside, this one is another super gorgeous one. I still really love the green base that this has. It's just so vibrant and so shiny. To me, this has the most or the strongest chrome kind of look. I'm guessing because the shimmer just looks more silver, but either way, it's not like super metallic-y or brushstrokey or anything. But I did find that this one was on the sheer side as well, so I also needed 3 coats to build up the coverage to match the other shades. So here it is in more indirect light, so you can see that shift to that bright lime green, and it is so good. And rounding out the collection, we have Northanger Abbey, and this is a frosted base with a silvery chrome shimmer and a sprinkle of Holo sparkle. So this is the only one in the collection that has a holographic sparkle, but you aren't really going to see it here. And I unfortunately didn't have any sunlight when I was able to do my Skittle for these, so frankly, I just couldn't see any holographic sparkle in this one at all. It just looked like a regular chrome sort of polish. But even if it did have a Holo sparkle, I don't think I would love this one anymore. I feel like the base is just very chromy and I don't love that look. So while it does have a great full coverage formula that was basically opaque in 2 coats, this still was my least favorite from the collection, but I can see it serving a purpose. And here is the collection, well, minus Northanger Abbey, worn as a Skittle in 2 coats each, and I am just so in love with how shimmery these are. They are just so shifty, and I guess in more like indirect lighting and especially low lighting, you can really see that chrome effect coming through. And I do also want to apologize for any imperfections you might see. I unfortunately did ding some of my nails already, and there were some bubbles from the top coat that I was using, so I kind of ruined the look of them. They definitely did not look bad before doing my top coat, but I imagine that the chrome effect would actually be less forgiving of imperfections that you might have, so you might want to use a smoothing base underneath. And actually, I would recommend a smoothing base anyway, because I did experience some light staining with Emma and Persuasion specifically. And lastly, I wanted to show the Skittle underneath my desk lighting, as well as show you a photo of my bestie wearing a Skittle. The order is a little bit different, and she doesn't have the green polish. She repeated Persuasion twice on her thumb and her pinky, but they are just so glowy, especially in direct sunlight. And here is the collection lineup. Obviously, I'm just obsessed with these shimmers, with these base colors, the color combinations in general. They are just so magical and ethereal, maybe with the exception of the silver. So getting into comparisons, we're starting with Emma, and the first polish that I was immediately reminded of was ILNP's Opal Sunset from the Summer Nights collection. It has a pretty similar pinky base with a gold shimmer, and I did also want to see this next to Mooncat's High Fructose, which is one of my favorite shimmers that was sadly retired last year. This one has a little bit more of a lilac kind of purple leaning base color, but again, still has that strong gold shimmer, so overall, these 3 are definitely pretty similar to each other, but I will say that Emma has the smoothest shimmer kind of finish. Even though the other 2 polishes are described as shimmers, they're almost like a larger shimmer particle, so you can see the base kind of peeking through a little bit more, and it's not as smooth as the Rogue Lacquer. But they do have similar color shifts, so if you missed High Fructose, I think Emma would be a good alternative. Next for Persuasion, I had to see this next to ILNP's Downtown from that same Summer Nights collection. This is another light purpley base with a gold to green shifting shimmer, so again, kind of similar color shifts. But if anything, Persuasion also reminded me of Pahlish's Salvador Dalí from Pahlish pickup last year. This one is a little bit more similar as far as the finish goes, where it's like a smooth shimmery finish and not that like larger shimmer particle that ILNP has. But Pahlish's base is a little bit darker and the color shifts in indirect light are slightly different too. They're not exact dupes, but I do think if you skipped out on Pahlish, Persuasion would also be a great alternative. They're like pretty close. Next for Sense and Sensibility, I of course had to show this next to ILNP's Skate Date from the Summer Nights collection. That one does kind of have a similar blue base color, but the shimmer is different where it's more orangey in ILNP. So I thought something even closer would be Mooncat's Mermaid bait, which again has a similar blue base color, and I would say the shimmer in these two polishes is basically the same, or at least the same colors, because obviously the actual shimmer particle is a little bit different, where again in Mooncat it's like a little bit larger where you see almost like flecks of shimmer, but in the Rogue lacquer shades they're just so fine and densely packed where it gives it that chrome sort of effect. So again, the actual visual difference is apparent, but when it comes to the color, I feel like they are basically the same. So if you do already have Mermaid bait, I don't think you would need the Rogue. Then for Pride and Prejudice, I wanted to show this next to ILNP's Pixie Party from last year's Fairy Forest collection. This one is in a true pink base as opposed to the peach base that Pride and Prejudice has, and Pixie Party has more of a green shimmer head on as opposed to the blue, so these are pretty different. But when I first saw Pride and Prejudice, I did immediately think of Phoenix Polish's Chibi from Pahlish pickup earlier this year. In the bottle, they definitely do look super different because Phoenix has this brighter, almost like bubblegum pink shade, but they do have a nearly identical blue shimmer. On the nail, it is a little bit easier to tell them apart, where it's just maybe more sheer, like more of the true or typical standard shimmer formulas in Phoenix, and Rogue has that like slightly more opaque, finer, densely packed shimmer, so it just looks a little bit different. But again, in indirect light, I feel like they do have a pretty similar color shift, so if you did miss out on Chibi, I think Pride and Prejudice would be a good alternative. So since Pixie Party wasn't a good match, I thought maybe ILNP's Flower Child from their new Wildflowers collection is a closer match, but it actually is even farther apart. Flower Child just has a slightly more lilac kind of leaning color where there's like a hint of purple to it, and the blue shimmer is a little bit darker but still just as glowy and intense. It again just has a slightly different particle size, so it just looks a little different, but they are also very different colors. Next for Mansfield Park, I was immediately reminded of Cirque Colors U Tart from the Twisted Tea Party collection. That one is a little bit brighter though, almost that tennis ball green kind of color. It's not as soft maybe as Mansfield Park, so I thought a closer green from Cirque would be Mermaid Grotto from last year's Surfer's Crush collection. That one does have a blue shimmer, so it is a little bit different, but I think the base color is more spot on. And I did also want to show it next to Mooncat's My Bugs from the Nightmare Before Christmas collab, which has sadly been retired. That one's just another apple green kind of base color, but with more of a true lemon kind of shimmer head on, which is what I was sort of expecting from Mansfield Park. So you can see side by side just how silvery that shimmer is in Rogue, but it definitely does have the strongest shimmer, I would say, out of all three of these, but definitely not dupes. And finally, for Northanger Abbey, I knew I had to see this next to Holo Taco's World's First from their One Coat Chromes collection. It's obviously another silver chrome kind of polish, and they definitely look identical in the bottle. And then I remembered I also have Cirque Sterling, which is somewhat new. It launched like in the winter time. I don't think Cirque calls this a chrome, but it is another silver metallic kind of polish. So they basically have the same vibe and accomplish the same things, but they still are surprisingly different once you see them on the nail. Holo Taco's is definitely the most chrome-like with the most kind of dimension. You do see some of that dimension in Cirque Sterling, but head on the shimmer sort of matches Northanger Abbey a little bit more, where that one kind of looks flat in comparison. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Rogue's Austentatious collection. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on this release. I did share it initially a month ago when it first kind of launched for pre-order, so I'm curious to know how many of you guys picked it up back then. And I'm definitely curious to know how many of you guys are going to be picking it up now that you've seen some swatches, because I am so obsessed with these. I still cannot get over just how insane and how shifty these are. It's not really going to focus on my nails, but I have the window like over there, so hopefully you can see the kind of color shifts going on. These are just absolutely stunning. Definitely so up my alley. I definitely would say they are new favorite shimmers for my collection. So if you, like me, love anything magical, ethereal, fairy-like, I think you are going to love these polishes. I still kind of wish the silver chrome wasn't part of this collection. Like, it is a cool polish, but I don't know. To me, it doesn't totally fit. I would have rather we've gotten a different shimmer instead. That's just me. I'm not super big into like the chrome look anyway. And even though these are called like chrome shimmers, I guess if the chrome looks like this, then I'm on board. But for a basic like silver chrome, you know, I'm not super crazy over it. But let me know how you feel about that one. Maybe you're more excited about it than I am. If you do love these, I am gonna have Rogue's website listed in my description box, and I'm pretty sure there isn't a pre-order for them anymore. Like, you can just buy them and they should ship within like a normal turnaround time. At least I would hope so, because back when I ordered for the pre-order, it ended up kind of getting delayed and it took like about a month, if not like a little bit longer to get to me. But I would say they are totally worth the wait. So as always, make sure to leave me any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.